Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle podcast, the place where expert-based business owners learn how to build momentum, avoid burnout, and create sustainable success on their own terms. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, strength and conditioning specialist turned founder and CEO of Prime Performance Coaching, the personal performance strategy firm for high-achieving business owners and operators. I partner with driven entrepreneurs to implement the Prime Performance process, an awareness-based operating system that's helped me and countless solopreneurs and small business owners evolve from just being high performers on the edge of burnout to prime performers building sustainable success. The impact of Prime Performance process has led me here, where I'll show you how to get unstuck and design your own Prime Performance life without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity. So whether you're hustling after hours or scaling your passion project, today and here you're going to get real stories, science-backed strategies, and practical frameworks to help you excel every step of your journey. It's time. Let's get intentional, build momentum, and become prime performers together. We'll get started just after this message. If you're an ambitious business owner or side hustler who's ready for a breakthrough, tired of spinning your wheels, looking to slide past burnout and build real momentum, I'd love to invite you to book a free Prime Performance strategy session with me or one of our strategists. This is your chance to get personalized insight on what's been holding you back and get a clear path to move forward. No fluff, just actionable strategy. So if you're interested, visit survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to request your spot now. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Looking forward to helping you become a prime performer. Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle podcast, the place where expert-based business owners learn how to build momentum, avoid burnout, and create sustainable success on their own terms. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, strength and conditioning specialist turned founder and CEO of Prime Performance Coaching, the personal performance strategy firm for high-achieving business owners and operators. I partner with driven entrepreneurs to implement the Prime Performance process, an awareness-based operating system that's helped me and countless solopreneurs and small business owners evolve from just being high performers on the edge of burnout to prime performers building sustainable success. The impact of Prime Performance process has led me here, where I'll show you how to get unstuck and design your own Prime Performance life without sacrificing your health, relationships, or sanity. So whether you're hustling after hours or scaling your passion project, today and here you're going to get real stories, science-backed strategies, and practical frameworks to help you excel every step of your journey. It's time. Let's get intentional, build momentum, and become prime performers together. We'll get started just after this message. If you're an ambitious business owner or side hustler who's ready for a breakthrough, tired of spinning your wheels, looking to slide past burnout and build real momentum, I'd love to invite you to book a free Prime Performance strategy session with me or one of our strategists. This is your chance to get personalized insight on what's been holding you back and get a clear path to move forward. No fluff, just actionable strategy. So if you're interested, visit survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to request your spot now. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Looking forward to helping you become a prime performer. What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. Today we've got a special guest. Today on this conversation today, we've got Jill Dunn. She's the founder of Jill in It, which is a modern matchmaking business built on authenticity, emotional intelligence, and real human connection. Jill and I have been friends for a while now, but she has spent the last decade helping singles navigate dating in a way that feels supportive, intentional, and actually human. What started as a singles event evolved into a high-touch private matchmaking service. And today, her work is expanding again as she builds a team to grow or to meet the growing demand brand, really. And in today's conversation, we plan to talk about evolving your business as you evolve, going in on your calling specifically, and what it really means to build something deeply personal without burning out or losing yourself in the process. So, Jill, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks, Rob. I'm so excited to be here too.
Yeah. I would love to just kind of like dive right in. I know your world of matchmaking really grew out of your own personal life transitions and stuff. Can you kind of walk us through what it was that really initially pulled you into this realm of being a matchmaker and connecting people?
Sure. Yeah, it really came basically this started because I got divorced. So about 10 years ago, I got divorced and I downloaded Bumble as we do. And, I was meeting people, but at the time my kids were younger and I only had one night a week that I was sort of available. So I was looking for more impactful ways to meet people. So I was searching for singles events and I couldn't find any around here. And so I decided to throw one in my hometown in Norwalk. And I was shocked by the need, by the demand and the outreach. So that event totally sold out and people were reaching out to me. So grateful for the opportunity to just connect with human beings. And this is 10 years ago before people were super burnt out on the apps like they are now. So, but I just think it's in our nature to want to connect with human beings. So creating that opportunity for people was really helpful. And even if they weren't meeting someone, a romantic connection, just being in a room with like-minded people who are also struggling to meet other single people, just like-minded people that are in the same sort of stage of life as you makes a big difference. So I started to host events. The demand was very real for that. I started to host events in different towns throughout Fairfield County. And then, I met a man at an event in Greenwich that reminded me of something that a woman in Milford told me that she was looking for. And I said, hey, would it be okay if I just swap some digits for you? So I did a little bit of that. And then I started, I just had more interest in really making authentic connections for people. So my matchmaking offering was born very organically in that way where I would say, but wait, first, do you want to have kids or, what's your 5-year plan or what's super important to you in a match? Are you religious? Because the woman I met is Jewish and she's really looking for a Jewish partner. So then, it really started like in a Google Doc, just me keeping track. And then to this day, 10 years in, I still make matches I call them Post-its in my head. Just things that people say sink into me and I just store them sort of in Post-its in my head and I pull from them when something else triggers a memory. So a lot of it is instinct, but now I'm much more organized. I'm out of the Google Doc and, into a fully operational, professional matchmaking offering where I'm collaborating with matchmakers all over the world. And I just am able to really have much more of a refined impact for people now.
Yeah, and that's just incredible to kind of hear how it started and like how you were juggling it in the beginning and how it just kind of organically grew into what it is now. And
Yeah.
you said something that really sticks out to me was all about how we naturally are seeking that human connection. And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad how like we're trying to artificially create it, especially with like ChatGPT. I use it so much as like a sounding board for me to like voice things against, but it definitely doesn't compare against like human connection. Can you share a little bit about like, because you also talked about how the apps are kind of burning people out and how technology is supposed to be connecting us, but it is really kind of disconnecting us in a way?
Yeah. So, I could go on and on about this forever because it drives me nuts. Like the AI, same. I use AI, same as you, as a sounding board for things, but people are really they're creating this false sense that there is an infinite number of people that would be a perfect fit for them, or people are forming relationships with an AI girlfriend or boyfriend. And it's really scary because then when they come back out into the real world and they're having actual human connection, it feels insufficient because this person didn't remember everything that they said yesterday or didn't ask them about how, X, Y, and Z went when an AI bot will remember these things about you and show up for you when you tell them they want you to. And so it's really causing big disruption and disconnection for people who are just feeling underwhelmed by actual human connection because it's not meeting the standard that an AI, girlfriend or boyfriend will. But aside from that, even in just dating apps, they create this false sense for people that there is an infinite pool of people that meet a really unnecessary set of criteria. And so, for example, I think about the check boxes for everybody knows that, women tend to filter for men that are over 6 feet and six figures and, all that. But if you meet, I always think about my grandparents' love story. It's like if they met in person, would she have known, how many inches tall he is or exactly the dollar amount he made or his job title or had to scrutinize everything? No, they met, there was a vibe, and then they built a life together. It's obviously a lot more complex than that. But filtering for things that are just so irrelevant to whether or not you can actually build something really cool and meaningful with somebody, just it stunts the growth, it keeps people single. That is, dating apps should be treated as an opportunity, not as the solution, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that you say that because to me, a couple people come to mind, and like we used to always joke as friends, and like, oh, you're too picky. Like there got to be this person. Oh, I don't like how that person smiles sometimes, and I'm like, yo, what? Like, how could you cancel somebody just because they have some like their smile when they sneeze, their smile or something like something so silly like that?
Yeah,
That is just insane.
it is.
And yeah, it definitely leads to more disconnect than ever before. And so I want to ask you though, over time, you were saying how your work kind of shifted into this more private matchmaking. When was it like, what was the major signal for that evolution to like fully take place as like, hey, this is what I want to be doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I live alone with my kids, right? So you always have to, obviously, you got to put food on the table. You got to be able to pay the bills. So with that in mind, I always had other side hustles. I had this business growing all along. The demand was very real and my heart was pulling me here, but I had a little bit of fear that, what if I don't have this solid stream of income? I had other businesses, did contracting work and but everything in my body for years was just saying like, everything else annoyed me. This was the work I cared about and everything else was a distraction from it. And then finally, I had a real conversation with my kids about what could possibly happen if I quit everything else and go all in on this. I'm like, this could either be really great. We can make a big impact for a lot of people and it can change, the way that I work. It can change our life or, go broke. You know what I mean? But either way, I'll always put food on the table for you. So I'm like, either way, we'll be fine. But you have to go where your heart's calling you. And so the kids were like, do it. That's awesome. Let's, and it's been so great to have them a witness to what has happened once I really committed to this business. And again, I was always committed to it, but I just was juggling too many other things. And so with that, I wasn't able to really offer enough to clients because I was spread thin. But once I quit everything else and just went all in, it made a huge difference in, in how I can show up for clients, truly in the impact I can make, in the money I can make, and in how I can invest in a client search with that money. For me, obviously we work for money, right? But having heart-centered work that you care about and you're making an impact on people is everything. There's no way that I could show up every day the way that I do. I mean, I think about my clients in the middle of the night. I have a couple that's on a date right now for lunch in their mid 60s and I can't wait to get the text message from them to see how it went. They're definitely going to like each other. I know that. So I'm waiting for those messages. I care about people so much and I wasn't able to give so much space to it before I went all in on it. So that was a huge lesson for me. And I think it was a noteworthy lesson for my kids to watch, that if your heart is calling you somewhere, you gotta go all in on it. Otherwise you're not going to get everything out of it if you're not all in,
Yeah. And I mean, you just shared so much great value there from something, what you were saying there. One reminded me of a quote that one of my mentors always says: diluted focus yields diluted results. So you got to be able to eliminate a lot of the distractions and really put more of your eggs into like one basket so you can kind of focus. And then also you starting your business here is pretty much like what you're kind of talking about here. Like, you need to kind of focus, you need to eliminate a lot of the other distractions and really go with the vibe, what your heart is telling you. Same thing in matchmaking is what I'm hearing from you is like you having all these social media or like options on that. You're not really giving yourself enough ability to kind of hone in onto your relationship. And I think the same thing goes with entrepreneurship as well. So many people kind of get stuck, or they're not open to different opportunities, and then they might stay in their lane instead of evolving or adapting their business to what people are kind of leading and what their heart kind of pulls them towards.
Absolutely. And I think that has been a huge lesson for me, even in the evolution of my offerings. I felt there is a fear always in making changes, but that's where the juicy stuff is in relationships, in dating, in business. It's all relative that when you're feeling an urge to change and sort of like bust through a ceiling on something, there's a reason. There's a reason to deepen that relationship or make the transition or invest something or hire a mentor or a coach or a matchmaker. If you're feeling called to do something, there's a reason, and following that intuition, but also being accepting of the fact that you are going to change over time. Your goals are going to change over time, and you're under no obligation to be the same person as you were yesterday, right? Or a year ago. And I'm definitely not the same person I was a year ago. And that's a beautiful thing. But when I first started to really grow my business and grow my mindset on the reach that I can make and the impact that I can make. Once things were working, there's a fear in changing that. You want to just like hang on to it real hard and just keep doing that on repeat. But as I've grown in my own personal development as a single dating woman, then, over time working with dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of single people over the years, I'm changed. I'm different. I have more to offer. I have different things to offer. And if I was still trying to just wash, rinse, repeat what I was doing 8 years ago, I would be doing everybody a disservice and most importantly, myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's like you're almost reading my mind too, because I was going to ask you, I was like, okay, Jill, who starts this business 10 years ago, was this one version of Jill. And I was going to ask you, like, what is this new version of Jill 10 years later? But you just hit that on the head. So I want to bring that question a little bit further too. Now, maybe to have you think a little bit deeper here. What Jill do you need to step into for the next level of your business?
Right. So I equally geek out on relationship dynamics and dating knowledge as much as business concepts and business development. So there is a large part of me that is pulled to the business side of growing the business, being able to reach more people. But there's only 24 hours in a day. And I really value balance in my life. I value time with my kids and in relationship and friends and other things that I find enjoyment in. So for me, keeping a balance and a reasonable demand on myself, like I have a wait list for people to join me as private matchmaking clients. And the reason is there's only 24 hours in a day, and each client can only have a certain amount of time from me each week. And so if I take on 50 clients at a time, I can't give everybody, and that's back to that diluting. I can't give everybody what they deserve, but there are other ways that I can serve people and make an impact for them. And so that's where the business development part comes in, where I'm doing more group programs, not for matchmaking, but making an impact for people in coaching and creating more opportunities for them, like my love club, where people are able to join group programs. Again, the people, resources from me, still growing. It's like, it's like personal training, but for your love life. And so I exert the same effort, whether I have 50 or 5,000 people in the love club, but I can give people much more. I can give more people much more by offering things like that. So every day there's a balance, and things come up inevitably in people's love lives. And so there's always like emergencies. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. There's not like an emergency room emergency, but there are urgent matters that I have to tend to that my business development stuff has to sometimes go to the wayside. But I try to block that into my calendar. Like Tuesday afternoons, I schedule out for me to just really click on things that I can further my growth, the Jill in it growth, and not just the, reach for clients and impact for clients.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And you said something like about a minute or two ago that kind of jogged my memory. So, as I continue to grow and evolve prime performance coaching and lean more into the personal performance like strategy world, an exercise that I do with a lot of my clients is making sure that they set up a strong support system. And I bring them through a team triangle exercise that I do to help them identify like a mentor, captains that they can kind of lean on, and then like a crowd that keeps them supported moving forward. And you had mentioned that your kids played a huge role in your decision making. So about the business. So I want to ask, like, how has their support shaped you as a leader, as a mom, and also as like a businesswoman?
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't make me cry because they're obviously everything. They're my motivation for everything. It's like, I don't, of course, like my impact with singles is huge. And also my own evolution as a single woman, all the things I've learned. Like when I first got divorced, I thought for sure I was going to immediately meet someone right away, get remarried, probably have another baby. And I'm so glad that that didn't happen immediately because I had so much to learn. And all of that is what brought me to this work. And so this was exactly my path. But just being really real with my kids about what is happening in what making these changes in my business can mean for our life in a good way and in a scary way has been everything. And obviously, everybody has a different set of motivation. And for me, it's not even about a financial impact for myself or for my kids. It's about a motivation about being heart centered and authentic and caring about what you're doing, really being, showing up in a way that you're proud of, that people that look up to you will want to emulate. And that is like, I always get emotional when I talk about my kids. So I really, for that, and they see it, they're so proud of me. They're so proud for, when they hear how excited I get when somebody comes back to me with I have 2 client weddings coming up this year already. I'm pretty sure there's going to be another one that's, top secret still. But, they're like, we celebrate together, though, those are the things. And having people that really care about you, and even more importantly, having people that you really care about, I think makes a big difference in motivation to continue to grow and evolve, but also to rest and give yourself some grace to not always. That's something that I have struggled with is I'm like, I really want to charge and just keep going and do more. But then, you reach a level of overexertion, burnout, where things become less heart centered because you're just grinding it out. So finding that balance for me, and also doing that in an appropriate way to set an example for my kids and also to really be able to spend time with them. And I've always been able to, be the room mom and drive on the field trips and pick them up from school and be at every game. And that has been so important to me to be able to do that. And so being a business owner, you don't work 9 to 5, but you work, 24 hours a day. But I'll be at every one of my daughter's volleyball games, no doubt, because I don't schedule calls in that time, So having that control makes a big difference, and the motivation to do it. Like you said, having people that you care about making an impact on.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. It's me, Rob, and I hope you're enjoying today's conversation. But I wanted to remind you, if you're a driven entrepreneur or an expert-based business owner who wants to get unstuck, create sustainable momentum, and really start moving forward, I've got a free resource just for you. You can download my 5 keys to clarity and momentum. It's a PDF guide. It's a quick read, and it'll help you cut through the noise, clarify your next steps, and start building the systems that you need for sustainable success. So if you're new here, or if you haven't grabbed it yet, this is the first step to applying these principles in your own journey. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/5 keys and download your free copy today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/5 keys. Yeah. And having that support system really kind of gives you the confidence to go out and kind of tackle different things and projects. And I think you can I think you might agree that like entrepreneurship is much like dating, where it can be difficult to step out of your comfort zone, and especially when it's safe and comfortable. So what kind of advice do you have for somebody who is maybe because the show here is surviving a side hustle. So a lot of people have their full 9 to 5 jobs and then they're starting a project on the side. But then they're also out in the world dating too. So what would you say to someone who is kind of torn between feeling safe and secure and they know that there's a calling or something's passion that they want to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it sounds great to just say, like, "Ah, forget it, just quit your job and just go all in, follow your heart." But we all have bills to pay and you need to be realistic. But I think setting off bite-sized chunks and the people say, like, "Oh, you're so lucky." No, I'm not lucky. Like, I have worked so hard to get to where I am, but you have to do it in realistic bite-sized chunks. And this is another thing that was a, big lesson for me. When comparison is the thief of joy, right? There are matchmakers, there are any business that you have, anything that you want to do, anything that your side hustle is, there's someone that's doing it bigger and better and differently than you. Staying authentic to who you are and what you really can bring and what you're really capable of right now is everything. And what I had to offer someone 5 years ago was the best of me. And it was right for the people that I attracted at that time and the people that I could serve at that time. And now, I feel like on a personal level and in every level in business, I've leveled up, 10 times from there. And let's talk a year from now and I'll be on a different level then. And all of that is okay. There's nothing wrong with where I was 10 years ago or where I am today. And just being able to accept that you can only do what you can do. And also that there's certain stages of life, right? So this started 10 years ago. My kids were 4 and 6. Now they're 14 and 16. They need me differently. Like running against the wind doesn't help anybody. It makes you feel insufficient. It makes you feel like you're failing. But accepting where you are and what you're capable of that time, it's like give yourself some grace to do that, but also have incremental goals that, and stick with it. Stay up on a Saturday night late when the world's asleep or your friends are out so that you can complete the course to get the extra stream of revenue that you need or whatever it is. Sometimes you have to sacrifice to get where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. Sacrificing, yeah, it's scary, it's difficult, but it is required sometimes. I want to kind of ask you because in dating, there are good dates and bad dates. And obviously you determine what a bad date is by the amount of red flags, I guess. It's like you start to see. And I know that you had a lot of other adventures and projects going on before you went full all in. So how do you know when it's time to pivot, whether it's out of a relationship or out of a side project or another business venture?
Yeah, it's so interesting how many parallels there are between relationships and business. And I reference them a lot on my social media when I'm comparing things that either a client or myself or whoever's going through. And, I always say, like, don't fight the funk. It's like you meet a great guy or a great woman who you're like, I could see myself with this. This is going to work. But for whatever reason, you keep hitting a wall. It's not working. It's not hitting. It's not fitting. But you feel determined. There's a big difference between, determination and then trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, that sometimes you need to just be like, this isn't working because this is not it, and just really honoring that. And I'm not saying, give up on every connection or whatever, but, when you think about bad dates, to me, I say, that's part of my 4-day flip, my coaching program for women. That's a self-guided program. And in there, I say, there's no bad dates. And that's the goal, to have the vision and the wherewithal to understand that every date is an experience. Every person you meet is important to your path. And the same thing is true in business. Every step is important and every step contributes to where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to learn at that time. And the only way it's a bad date or a wrong turn is if you don't learn anything from it and don't grow from it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is the line between determined and stubbornness, I
Yeah.
guess.
Determined and dense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Determined and dense. Yeah. So your work is obviously very emotionally charged space. What kind of boundaries or practices do you implement or show or teach to help people really show up without carrying everyone else's kind of weight?
Yeah, that is something that I'm getting better at, but I have definitely had to establish boundaries because I care about people, but I also care about myself. And in order for me to really show up for people, I need to be able to have sort of off hours. I used to be available 24 hours a day. And I'm like, I'm not a brain surgeon. This is not necessary. So it's little boundary setting things like I have scheduled date recap calls with clients after a date, and that, putting systems make a huge difference. Putting systems in place for, it used to be like, call me anytime. No, now we have a procedure for things and I have office hours, and everybody that I work with knows that I do not exist on Sundays. I'm completely don't even message me because I'm not responding. Or if you do, don't expect anything back from me till Monday because I need to, keep that boundary. But as far as emotional boundaries, like I am in the trenches with my clients and I care so deeply about their journey that I laugh with them, I cry with them, and find them find them the solution. We're in it together. And so as far as that, we go deep, and my clients get to know me really well too. So we talk all the time. We become a part of each other's lives, which is why I'm going to 2 client weddings this year because I was part of their journey. So I think boundaries are huge in business, but also in emotional work. There really sometimes has to be an off switch. And even if somebody had a bad date and they need to talk, I don't even keep my phone on me on Sundays.
And that's important, setting the boundaries.
Yeah.
And you said systems too, because systems really help you, are the key to scaling instead of just growing. And growing's great, but when you grow, you get all the positives with the business, but then you also get a lot of the expenses like scale up and go up too. So scaling through systems allows you to continue to positively move forward there. So I want to ask you, as you're continuing to kind of grow and scale up yourself and your business, what does success look like to you now versus what it was 10 years ago when you first started this whole world?
Yeah. So I think for me, I think a lot of it is the same because then it was about creating opportunities for other people to connect because I felt such a void there. And then, obviously it feels good for people to be grateful for what you're offering and what you're doing. And I hear it now. And, obviously now the volume is larger. More people are reaching out to me. I have a larger impact. I can help people in more ways. But the baseline is the same, that people have a need, people feel unheard, people feel misunderstood, and they relate to me. The people that relate to me, and I always say your first match is with your matchmaker. And it's true that we have to be able to vibe, and you have to trust me, and we have to have a good understanding. And so for me, that success is when I have a good match with a client and we end up really clicking. And I only now where we are with the business is I do not take on people that I do not think highly of. I only work with people that I can authentically speak highly of. And that's again about staying rooted in authenticity and what is right and what feels right for you. And it's the only way to be able to sleep at night. There's been 2 times that I ended a contract early and sent a refund. And I just said, we're not a match because I didn't like the way that they treated me and, other people. I think that to answer your question long and short, I think success is in how you can sleep at night and how you know that you are giving your all to somebody, but also creating something that you're proud of.
Yeah, yeah. I love that too, because as I've kind of grown into this new role of coaching and identity for myself and my brand, I've seen, like, especially in speaking, like I shared stage with like a couple other speakers, and we all 4 or 5 of us could all essentially say the same exact thing, but one of our stories might resonate with somebody in the audience differently than the other, and that's where that connection kind of comes into play. And it's good to hear that you've terminated contracts too for wrong fits too, and that's a good sign of how, like, your business practice in health too. And I remember when I was just doing fitness and nutrition coaching, I had to fire some people because it was just like wasting time. I'm like, hey, these are the things that we need to be working towards. But if you're not ready or willing to work towards these things, then we're just not a right fit. So I'd had to
Exactly.
fire clients like that before. So I love how you're talking about alignment and connecting, and that really, again, helps you scale too, because now you know exactly who to work with and how you can help them. Which perfectly for me to ask you is, so who is the perfect match for you if they're looking for it? Like, who gets the best results from working with you?
So the people with an open mind and an open heart that really do want to make a change in their life, right? So there are lots of resources out there for people to date. There's dating apps, there's tons of speed dating events and all kinds of singles events all over the area. But if what you were doing was working, then you wouldn't be searching for an alternative solution. So the only I say almost always by the time I'm done working with a private matchmaking client, it's because they're pursuing a new relationship. And the only times that that is not true is when they are just doing their square peg round hole. They're not doing the work. They're not taking the feedback that we get after dates. They're not saying yes. They're looking for a very, a needle in a haystack, and they're not willing to look at the haystack. And but with that said, there's no specific, I feel like in Fairfield County area and New York City, women that are divorced tend to gravitate towards me because they understand my journey and I understand theirs, obviously. But I have clients that I have worked with in relationships all the way from a 24-year-old pre-med student that lives in Manhattan. Her dad hired me, all the way to an 88-year-old woman in Northern Connecticut that I placed in a relationship with a man her age. So whatever it is, it's just a matter of somebody who contacts me for an intentional search. And then I have the resources and the impact and the audience to be able to go out and find the right person for them.
So what would you say is like the number one thing that you hope people feel after interacting and engaging with your work?
I hope they feel love. I hope that they feel hope and love, and that they feel the impact that sort of, and also the mindset piece of dating is huge and that's part of the work with private matchmaking clients, is the coaching along the way, because we talk after each date, we check in. And, if you have the mindset, well, that was another bad date because it wasn't my husband, that is a failure, then it is a bad date. If there's nothing from it that you can take and learn from and grow from and find and refine or search with or refine what you're looking for with, then that's a loss. But if you are in the place where you really are open-minded, then you're going to feel love. You're going to feel beneficial, and you're also going to see and attract more love in your life because you're in that space. If you're thinking, that was another bad date, this guy is not my husband, this is a failed date, though they don't end up in the relationship that they want. The only people that they are attracting and keeping are other negative, self-deprecating, burnt out people. So that is part of the journey, is just keeping your head up and coming away with it in love and in a good experience and in a relationship. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that totally. And I think your thoughts and your mindset really control your reality and create the reality around you. So I think, I mean, I'm huge on that, the positive outlook and trying to find the silver lining whenever possible. So I understand you've got your matchmaking service. I know you have events. I believe you've got courses and things too. So if somebody is listening to this and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to change. I want something better for me here, but they're not really sure what to do to kind of get their toes dipped in, and they're maybe a little nervous about doing it. What do you recommend their first step to kind of getting into your world?
So there's a couple different ways to get in touch. I mean, first, if you go to my website, jillinnit.com, and you just drop your email address there, you'll get a welcome email that has a list of all the different things that I do. And you can reply to that and it goes right to me. You can email me, hello@jillinnit, or Jill Love is my number. And you can even text that and text or call that, and you have a conversation with me, and we'll figure out what is the best way for me to work with you. Because for some people, it's not private matchmaking. Maybe you're not there yet. I have, like I said, the 4-day flip, which is a self-guided program for women. I have singles events, coaching, the love club. I try to offer something for everybody at different ages and stages. And, sometimes people will even contact me and say, this is where I'm at in my journey and this is what I'm looking for. And I can create a program for them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's the best strategy with a lot of different kind of service-based approaches, is like understanding who they are first so that you can make a better recommendation on how to go through and get the best results. So that's awesome. Well, Jill, I want to thank you for carving out the time. I know you got a lot with the business. I know you got a lot of events and things going on, family and just your personal life as well. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on today and share a bit about your story, your insights, and a lot of value you gave too. This was a lot
Thank
of
you.
great take home stuff. So I really appreciate that. But before I let you go, I want to ask you one final question here. So thinking ahead into the future and then putting ourselves there in the future and then reflecting back to here and thinking about how Jill and it has done all these great things and the impact that it's created. How do you want people to think and experience dating and relationships differently because of Jill and it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want people to experience dating in a way that it is about the journey, not just the destination. And I always say, like, the juice is in the journey. And so if you are if you're looking for a partner, you're looking for the path. Really, it's the path to the partner that is the gold. And there is so much to be learned, and it is dating is a self-exploration process. The pot of gold or the partnership at the end is the silver lining. And that is the goal, but it's not the only goal. And if you can extract all the juicy little bits of the journey on your way to that partnership, you have won. And it makes being in that journey not so terrible because you're able to really find it fulfilling. So having that mindset of growing and learning along the way makes it less stressful, or, it makes it a beautiful place to be rather than disappointing and disheartening.
I love it. And again, thank you so much for coming on today. And everybody, hopefully some of the questions I asked Jill today helps answer some of your questions. And if you have more questions, definitely reach out to Jill through those different services. She's very open for communication and is a great
For sure.
individual. So Jill, thank you again for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Rob. That was fun.
That's all for today's episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found value here, please don't forget to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from. And please create a shared success by helping us share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from today's conversation. And finally, don't forget to connect with us at survivingthesidehustle.com and give us a follow on socials so that we can take part in following along in your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time, remember, success doesn't require a complete sacrifice, just strategy, momentum, and the right support. That's all for today's episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found value here, please don't forget to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from. And please create a shared success by helping us share this episode with someone who you think would benefit from today's conversation. And finally, don't forget to connect with us at survivingthesidehustle.com and give us a follow on socials so that we can take part in following along in your entrepreneurial journey. Until next time, remember, success doesn't require a complete sacrifice, just strategy, momentum, and the right support.